All right, welcome into another special edition of the Pirate Radio podcast. Jonathan Ellerbe here, and man, I am super excited today. This is a man that is going to inspire and bring Greenville something that it's never seen before, and he's going to be our 2025 Pirate Radio Leadership Luncheon speaker. He is the one and only Inky Johnson, and Inky, welcome to the podcast, man. It is an honor to have you on the show today.
No, man, it's an honor to be on. Greatly appreciate you guys, man. Looking forward to coming to town. And thanks a lot for the opportunity.
You're a person that I've been following for a while, but I've really dove into your stuff more and more lately once we've come to the agreement that you can come in March on 16th and 17th of next year to be our leadership speaker. And man, your story, your perspective. I mean, there's not a time when I'm on social media and Inky Johnson doesn't pop up that I don't stop and listen. I mean, you're that great. I appreciate all you do. Let's get people up to speed with the Inky Johnson story and how you. I think one of my favorite quotes of yours is "Where you see people, where you meet people, is not where they've always been." And I think that's Inky Johnson in a nutshell.
Absolutely, man. When I was young, I would always think wherever I met a person, whatever they were doing at the time, like they had to always want to do that. And when you think about the quote, everybody has a journey, everybody has a story, everybody has things that they've been through. And so when you look at people's stories, journeys, and the things that they've been through, it's what shape and mold them into the people that we come to know. And so that's where that quote came from and originated from. And I just believe, man, people are incredible, you know.
Inky, you're incredible. Let's give a little background to you. You grew up in Atlanta, in a two-bedroom home with I think 14 people, and you were kind of chasing an NFL dream that led you to Tennessee. And then about 18 years ago, that NFL dream kind of got derailed with an injury, and it's kind of charted your life to on a new course to where you're the best motivational speaker in the business. Give us some background from Inky Johnson as a kid to the college person to Inky Johnson today.
Absolutely, man. As you stated, born and raised in Atlanta, born to a 16-year-old mother, two-bedroom home, 14 people. And just like any other kid, man, had a dream, and that dream for me was the NFL because I just wanted to change my family's life. My mom was working a double shift at Wendy's. Me and my cousins, we were sleeping on the floor. My grandmother, I wanted to give her a better living condition. And so I went all out, man, on this dream to make it to the NFL. And I became really close to making it take shape. And at the University of Tennessee at the time, I was the first one in my family to go to college. And so it was a big deal. And September 2006, in a game against Air Force, went out to make a routine tackle. And it ended my career and it changed my life. Ultimately, man, it ended up becoming one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. It didn't always feel that way, but in terms of perspective and perception, it ended up becoming one of the best things that ever happened to me. And so, I was just chasing a dream, man, to do something incredible for my family. And I always tell people, man, on the dream to your goals and your aspirations and the road to your goals and your aspirations, sometimes you have to take familiar and unfamiliar routes. And for me, that was an unfamiliar route. The injury, what happened to me, what transpired was an unfamiliar route that led to a great destination and my purpose in what I'm doing now.
How do you think you were able to use your injury for a greater purpose to become the motivational speaker you are today?
Yeah, I just wanted to find purpose when my injury first happened. Because at one point, football brought me purpose. And so when I got injured, I was like, man, I got to find purpose. And so I went down the path to become a coach. And people would just tell me, like, man, you need to speak. And I was on Lane Kiffin's staff at the time, believe it or not. And so I was with Lane and, I would get opportunities to come out and speak. And I would just go and share what happened to me. I wasn't thinking that it was going to turn into what it's turned into. And somebody would always come and speak over my life like, hey, man, you got something to give, something to contribute. And I'll be like, yeah, it's cool, man. But I was just sharing from a place of basically therapy. It was therapeutic for me, to go out and share what had happened and transpired. And I remember getting to the point in my life to where everything I tried didn't work. And I felt as if I was being called to speak and I was running from it. And I just got to the point in my life to where I was like, I'm gonna just be obedient and see if I can add value to the environments that I'm being called into and the people's lives that I'm coming in contact with. And so that's what people did for me when I was young. It was a lot of people that spoke things into my life. It was a lot of people that saw things in me when I couldn't see it in myself. It was a lot of people that spoke beyond my circumstances. And so I like to think I'm just doing what people did for me years ago, man. I always say, don't judge each day by the harvest you reap. You judge each day by the seeds that you sow. And so every single day with my injury, I'm just trying to sow good seed into the environments that I go into and the people's lives that I come in contact with.
When did you recognize that your talent to speak and motivate people? When did that light bulb really go off from as you said you were on Lane Kiffin's staff after your injury and other things to like, hey, this is what, I have a future for.
I would say about 3 years after my injury, that's when I started to become cognizant just of the work I was doing, the way it was impacting people, and also just the athlete and the competitor in me. I wanted to become decent at it. I didn't want to be somebody that was just speaking and talking. I wanted to study just the art of communication. I wanted to study behavior science. I went to school for psychology. And so I wanted to understand how this whole thing works in terms of when you speak, words are powerful. Every single day, the words we speak, they can add to or take away. And so for me, I would say probably 3 years after my injury, was when I became cognizant that, hey man, the words that you speak, people are actually taking these words and these messages and going back and sharing them with their children, sharing them with teams, sharing them with organizations. And so it made me become cognizant and it made me to take what I was doing very serious.
Is there a moment when you feel like you became where you were a breakout and when that was like the light bulb, like you were speaking to this team, this business, or this person that you felt like it all clicked?
I would say when ESPN did the little short doc on me, man, and these guys came down and they could work with anybody in the world. And they came down and they worked with me in Knoxville, and they did a lot of stuff, man. And just seeing what they put into it, but also when it aired on television, I was sitting there with some family and some friends, and I hadn't seen it yet. I had just did the shoots with them in the stadium, did the shoots with them in different locations, but I hadn't seen the finished product yet. And so they sent me the date when it was going to air. And so I told family and friends, and we sat in front of the television. And man, when it aired, like to see the reactions of the people that were in the room with me, but also just the reaction that it got in the world. Like that blew my mind, because I was raised by a mother, man, like a blue collar mother. My mom got up, went to work every single day. Our circumstances were what they were. And she would always say, hey, Ink, the world don't owe you a thing. If you want to go out and make something of yourself, you go out, you work hard, and you do it. And so I never looked at what I was going through and what I had been through as anything special. I looked at the world like, hey, man, everybody has a story. And so when that aired on ESPN, to see the impact that it made in the lives of people, that really impacted me. Like I want to share something with you. Eric Berry is a little brother, like a little brother to me. And he went to the NFL, went fifth pick, played for the Kansas City Chiefs, real tough guy. And when Eric Berry went through cancer, I remember me and him were talking, and he was going through his chemo treatments in Atlanta. And he said, hey, Ink, I get it now. And I was like, what are you talking about? He said, I get it in terms of the things that we go through, the things that we encounter, how it impacts the world and impacts people. And so there's a quote that says, sometimes you can't see the picture when you're in the frame. And I think that's all of us at some point or another in our lives. Sometimes we can't see the picture when we're in the frame. Like you go through things, you experience things, and you're just in your bubble. That's your life. And then it gets to a point to where you start to see the impact of your actions, your words, how you live, how you do things. And when I saw that air on ESPN, it was like it broadened my perspective, and I was able to see outside of just my little bubble and how I was living my life.
Yeah, I think one of the special gifts you have is you're so believable because I think I think it's true that you live what you say and you talk a lot about gratitude and you've had so much adversity in your life, and you've had a lot of success as well. But how do you feel that gratitude is such a successful part for your life and anyone's life?
Yeah, man, I try my best to practice it, right? Like I do a lot of work with a lot of teams, man, and always tell like the young people, man, like one of the things looking back that I wish I would have done just as a young athlete, I wish I would have been grateful for all of the experiences. It was like I was so focused on trying to make it and trying to just be the best, and that's great. You should. But I wasn't always grateful for the losses. I wasn't always grateful for when things didn't go my way. And those are moments that can contribute to our development and the people that we're striving to become. And so I tell athletes, and I do it personally, put things in place that helps you focus on the things that are important, that brings you back to center every single day. And so every single day, man, I write down, I got a gratitude list every single day. I do it, and I've been doing it for a long time. It's something that helps shape my perspective. It's something that helps bring me back to center because you can get going, man, and you know as well as I do, life can spiral. Something can come and blindside you. And so if you don't have things that bring you back to center every single day, and a person can hear like, hey man, gratitude list, okay, that's cool. But one of the most powerful things in the world is reading your own handwriting. When you write down things that you're grateful for, when you write down things that you're trying to work on, and when you look at it, that's conviction, that's accountability. This is what you wrote down, not anybody else. And so this is something that's important to you. And so gratitude has been vital in my life and the man that I'm striving to become and the things that I'm trying to do.
What do you say centers you the most and keeps you grounded?
I would say my family, my wife, my children, and just my relationships and friendships, man. Just trying to go throughout life and really, like I tell people, man, I just try to serve as a mirror. I listen a lot, and the reason that I listen a lot is because I tell people all the time, man, if you listen enough, people will share with you what's important to them and the things that they really value. And I said the reason I try to acquire that information is so when a person goes through adversity, opposition, challenges, a tough time, I just try to be a mirror and reflect back to them what's important to them. Like, hey man, didn't you say you want to do this for your family? Hey man, didn't you say you want to accomplish this? Hey man, didn't you say this was important to you? And so just trying to be a mirror for my family, my friends, and not just trying to tell people what to think, but how to think. In terms of what I do in my communication method, it's not standing on the stage and trying to tell people what to do. I don't speak that way. It's more so just trying to be a servant, man, and add value and empower people and reminding them of what's important.
You're a father, you're a son, you're a husband, you're a great friend. I mean, you're Inky Johnson. You tell people all these motivational things all the time. Who motivates Inky Johnson? Who pours into you? And is it hard to sometimes? I mean, you're human too. You've got to be able
Absolutely.
to be down at times as well.
Absolutely, man. I got a great accountability group that I tap into. I got a lot of guys that we pitch and catch and we bounce things off of each other. Guys from college, guys from childhood, and it's a great accountability group. And these guys inspire me. We talk, text every single day. But it started back when I was in college, just an accountability group to where we would just check on each other. They're trying to accomplish. And so me and these guys, man, we still do that until present day to where we check on each other. But now the accountability goes beyond ourselves. Now we check on each other in terms of our marriages. Now we check on each other in terms of fatherhood. Now we check on each other in terms of our careers. Because you know as well as I do, man, as an athlete, as a male, just as a person, sometimes, man, you're constructed a certain way. And so we got this whole piece about mental health in the world that's extremely important. And so we just check on people, man. And so my accountability group is something that I tap into every single day just to check on people, and they do the same for me. And it pays great dividends.
What role would you say that faith has played in your career and your life to make you the person that you are today?
It's number one. My faith is number one. I tell people all the time, I was raised in the church, man. My mom, she's church going mother, man. I'm talking about when I was a kid, but I was just like any other kid. My mom would always be in church. She would have me in church. I was like a kid. I wasn't paying attention. She'll grab my ear, make me pay attention, all this type of stuff. But once I got to college, I got plugged in with FCA. You had AIA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes, Athlete in Action, had all these different resources. And then I got plugged in with the chaplain, our team chaplain, a guy by the name of James Mitchell. He's the chaplain for the Tennessee Titans present day. And he discipled me spiritually. Me, Gerard Mayo, who's the head coach for the Patriots, Robert Ayers, he's an assistant D-line coach for the Tennessee Volunteers, and a guy by the name of Ramon Foster that played 11 years for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's on radio in Nashville. And he discipled all of us spiritually. He walked with us from freshman year until we left UT, and we still connect with him until present day. And I really believe, man, just that discipleship, when my injury happened, my mindset was already changing. My language was already changing. My perspective was already changing because I was plugged into a resource that was constantly feeding me. And I also had a group of guys to where I had a level of accountability that helped me in my walk. I always tell people we weren't perfect. We messed up daily, but it was a resource there to hold us accountable. And we were just trying to be better. And so my faith is number one for me.
You always talk about your injury. You never looked at it as a tragedy. Was the faith in God the number one reason why?
Absolutely. That played a big part, man. And also, I would say just how I was raised. I had encountered a lot of adversity prior of this injury, but I had encountered a lot of adversity prior to my injury to where it had shaped my perspective. It made me look at life a certain way. And so when my injury happened, I had a certain perspective I had acquired prior to my injury. And so I looked at things a certain way and always tell people I didn't necessarily have the liberty when things happen to where I could just rest and go back to a situation or condition so I could be like, all right, man, I gave it my best. I was coming from a two-bedroom home with 14 people. I was sleeping on the floor. I didn't sleep in a bed by myself until I got to college. And so once I got there, it was like, okay, Ink, either man, I'm sorry about that. My phone went off.
It's
Either
okay.
you forge forward or you retreat and you go back to the same situations and conditions that you came from. In the situations and conditions that I came from, they were just going to say, hey, man, Ink, you did a great job. You went further than anybody in our family has ever went, right? They're great people, but nobody had ever been that far before. And so it's going to be like, hey, Ink, you went further than anybody has ever went in our family. Great job. Now come back to this household, to this environment. And so for me, my perspective was in a space and place that when I encountered adversity and opposition, use it. Use it as fuel. Don't use it as an excuse. Like use it to forge forward. Use it to shape perspective. Use it to help grow you. Use it to help teach you. And so I always say when you go through something in life, even if it blindsides you, even if it comes out of nowhere, right? There's something in the midst of that adversity and opposition that's trying to teach you something about you. And oftentimes we look at adversity and opposition from an outward perspective, how it's impacting environment, how it's impacting circumstances. Yeah, that's true. But also, it's there to teach you something about yourself.
One of my favorite things you say all the time is people and things come in your life as a lesson and a blessing. And if you don't recognize
True.
it, you don't get a chance to learn from it. I think you have so many examples of that in your life. Of I'm sure of how you've been able to learn and grow. What's been one of the biggest moments that you think has helped propel you to where you are today?
Yeah, and like you stated, man, I firmly believe there's always a lesson and a blessing. People come in your life as lessons and blessings, but I feel like there's always a lesson and blessing in everything we encounter. And for me, I tell people, man, one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for my injury, because for most people, they look at it and they're like, how can you be grateful for something that transpired the way that it did? They'll look at my arm, they'll see the atrophy. My arm is smaller than my left arm, my right arm is. They'll see the paralysis. A person can look at me from a distance and know something happened to him. And so it's hard for people to wrap their perspective around. man, how could this guy be grateful for it? But what it did for me, it shifted my perspective. It created a sense of urgency just about life and impact. Not urgency from the standpoint of I get up and I rush life. Not that type of urgency. It created urgency in terms of my perspective when I do something, when I'm a part of something. I want to do it a certain type of way because I understand one day you could be on top of the world. You could wake up tomorrow and the world could be on top of you and you have no control over it. You could do something every single day. And then one day something happens outside of your control and it can change your life forever. Like that's the blessing in what happened to me. That's the lesson in what happened to me. I have been playing this game from 7 until 20 years old. I hadn't really had a serious injury, and one day I go out to make a routine tackle. I've been in a lot harder collisions. And on this day, at this particular time, I make a tackle, and 2 hours later, I'm fighting for my life. And then I wake up the next day and my life is never the same again. And so it showed me the fragility of life. And so it's hard for me to take things for granted, because of what happened to me and how it transpired. And so that's been the biggest lesson and blessing for me in terms of what happened to me.
What does success look like for Inky Johnson?
Peace. Success is peace, man. I tell people all the time, I fought for a long time to acquire peace, and just in terms of my life, in terms of my circumstances, in terms of my injury, I fought to capture peace. And once I captured it, man, that's success for me. A peaceful state of mind. I tell people it was a story about two gentlemen, and these guys had done very well in life. Had acquired a lot of stuff. It was two guys, and one guy he had this unrelenting. I'm talking about pursuit. He just kept going, no matter how much money he made, no matter what he accomplished. He just kept going, and he had a buddy that was just as talented and just as skilled. And one day they sat down and they were talking just about life, about family, about success, accomplishments. And one of the guys said to his friend, he was like, "Hey man, like I have something that you don't have." And the guy was like, "What's that?" He said, "Enough." He said, "I got enough. I got peace." He said, "You, man, you never stop. No matter what you accomplish, like there's always the pursuit of, I got to get this. I got to have this. I got to do this. Like, I got to get this. You get a car, you got to have another one. You get a house, you got to have a bigger one. You get money, you got to have more. Like, I got peace." And so for me, man, I fought a long time to capture peace. And for me, that's what success is, just a peace of mind, in any circumstance, in any situation, knowing how to navigate back to that state of peace. That's success for me.
That's powerful. That's impressive. And you're going to be even more powerful when you come here March 16th and 17th to Greenville, North Carolina. We were talking a little bit before. You said you had some family that's been to East Carolina before. So what do you know
Yeah,
about the
man.
Pirates?
Yeah, my little cousin, man, my little cousin that grew up in that household with me, Anthony Johnson, man, he played football for East Carolina. So I came down to a game or two to check him out, because at the time he was right behind me, so I was still in Knoxville and I made it up to watch him play. And I've been to town a few times, man. And so that was a big deal for my family. After I went to college, he ended up going to college at East Carolina. It was a big deal. I'll never forget that.
That's very cool. And there's been another connection. I don't know if you remember Parker Bird, an ECU baseball player who lost
Yeah.
his leg below his knee. Still on the
Yeah,
ECU
sent him a
baseball team.
message.
Yeah,
Yeah, man.
you guys connected. Do you remember talking to Parker?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I remember that, man. Because I remember Coach as well, because we connected first on Twitter. Absolutely.
It's very cool. Well, Inky, you're impressive. We can't wait to have you in Greenville to talk to the Pirate Nation and deliver just a powerful word on that March 16th and 17th. We're going to have a lot of fun, and I know a lot of people, if they want to get to know you more, they can follow you. Your podcast is outstanding. You and Oak drop so much knowledge and wisdom in that, and you have a lot of fun with
Thank
it
you.
too. Tell everybody how they
Absolutely.
can connect with Inky Johnson between now and March.
Yeah, man. I'm on all social media sites, at Inky Johnson, on Instagram at Inky Johnson Motivate. And every single day, man, just trying to put some goodness out into the world and add value. Of course, my website is inkyjohnson.com. And so I'm on everything at Inky Johnson.
Inky Johnson, it's been a pleasure. As I said, can't wait to see you in March. And thank you for your time today. And we'll talk to you again next year.
Thank you guys so much for your time and the opportunity. I can't wait to be in town in March. Thank you.